Hey everyone, it is Jasmine back on SellerAmp's YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be going over a few beginner mistakes that a lot of people tend to do when they are using the SellerAmp app to source for profitable products. Without further ado, let's just get straight into this video. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to SellerAmp's YouTube channel. They post a lot of different Amazon tutorials for beginners especially, so then you can maximize your knowledge and know exactly how to use the SellerAmp app when sourcing for products for your Amazon business. Also, make sure to like this video up because I'm going to be giving out a lot of tips today. Mistake number one, not setting up your filters correctly. A lot of beginner sellers just think that they can just start using the SellerAmp app right away, but you do have to remember that if you are an FBA seller, you are going to be paying for shipping. So you have to make sure to go into your SellerAmp settings and you have to input that inbound shipping. So usually they do already include the referral fee and the FBA fee. Really, the only thing you need to input is the inbound shipping and the inbound placement. So for the inbound placement, I decided to use the Amazon optimized splits. And for the inbound shipping, I would say usually around like $1.25, $1.60. Right now, I actually have my settings as $1.25. The prices do raise in Q4, so you would want to put it a little higher. Usually I recommend around $1.75 per pound, but then you can also leave the placement fee as Amazon optimized splits. Now, you don't want to overly estimate all of your fees just because that can be harder for you when you are sourcing. Numbers really do matter within this business. So if you put your inbound shipping as, let's say, $2.50 and you actually were charged like $1.25, that can make or break a product and its profitability. So if you would come across a product and it's actually not profitable on your end just because you are overly estimating your inbound shipping, then you are going to want to play around with the inbound shipping. But like I said, usually around $1.25 to $1.60 is where I keep my inbound shipping. Now remember, whenever you are adjusting anything in your settings, make sure to scroll all the way down and click save, because if not, it's not going to save any. Mistake number two, ignoring key metrics. I feel like a lot of beginners are so overwhelmed with all of the different things that they have to look into before buying a product to resell on Amazon, but a lot of beginners tend to ignore the main key metrics like the sales rank, the ROI, and the profit margin. Now, I realize that a lot of beginner students who ask me to review some of their ASINs, the listing overall is pretty good, but they just aren't really profitable. And usually I do recommend being at least 25% ROI and above if you're doing arbitrage. Now, if you have access to way more volume, like maybe doing wholesale, then you have more space to have a lower ROI because you do have that volume. But with arbitrage, usually it tends to be more of like, you buy this product and then you delete it from your inventory once it sells, because we're always trying to hunt and find the newest deals. So usually with online and retail arbitrage, you aren't really able to have that volume and that constant replenishable product, but it just depends as well on the actual product itself. But like I said, you are going to want to stay around the 25% ROI range and above, and $2 profit and above. Now, I see a lot of beginners, they look for products and they find great products, but the profit is under $2. Like I said, it's really just up to you and your criteria of what you think you should be getting for a certain product. But like I say, I usually recommend to stay over $2 profit for arbitrage products. And if you're doing wholesale, then I recommend like $1.50, $1 per. But like I said, it really just depends on the actual product, the volume, and etc. Mistake number three, not understanding restrictions. Now, a lot of beginners just think that they can create their Amazon account, download SellerAmp, and just start sourcing and start selling automatically. But that is not the case. You have to make sure that you're not restricted in a product before you buy the product. And you need to make sure that you get approval using an invoice from a reputable distributor or trustworthy website, so then you can get approved to sell that brand. Now, there's a lot of ungating tutorials on YouTube, so make sure to go ahead and check that out. Keep in mind, you are gonna have to get ungated or unrestricted in quite a few products, especially if you just started out in the beginning, just because Amazon needs to make sure that you're not selling anything fake or counterfeit. So once you start making sales for them and once you start getting approved in a lot of different brands and categories, they're gonna be way more lenient with you. Now, I don't even remember the last time I had to get approval or get ungated excited for something that I wanted to sell just because I've been selling for a little while. They see the sales, they see that I'm a trustworthy seller. So just keep that in mind. Now, SellerAmp will actually tell you if you're eligible to sell the product right on the top, and I'll link a picture right here of where you'll be able to see that. Now, keep in mind, if you ungated a product and you go back on the listing and it still says not eligible, you're gonna wanna go scroll down to the alerts panel, click manual ungate and see if you actually were approved or do you need to provide an invoice again. Now, if you did get that email from Amazon saying, congrats, you've been approved for this brand or category, whatever, then just provide your invoice again and give it a few minutes, maybe a few hours, and then it'll be updated on SellerAmp that you're eligible to sell the product. Mistake number 4. Focusing on only low risk products. Now, I understand a lot of beginners are really scared to put money into something that they've never actually seen back. And that's with every single business model. But at the same time, you do want to take a little risk here and there. Now, usually there's a checklist, a whole list of everything that you should look for within a product. But sometimes you may not come across a product that checks every single box. Sometimes there is going to be risk. So I highly suggest, and if you see a few red flags, don't just completely disregard. If you have an Amazon seller friend that is more experienced than you, or you're in a Discord group, just ask and see what their opinions would be. But sometimes you really just have to take that little risk. Most times with risk comes reward. So if there's a lot of more good signs than bad signs with the product, you might just want to try a little test order, maybe 5 to 10 units. No one's saying that you have to buy a large amount of that item. Mistake number 5, using inaccurate costs. A lot of people, I always start it like this, but a lot of beginners, when I am helping them out and they ask me to review a listing for them, they give me the cost price, but they don't give me the actual total cost price. So then I can kind of tell that they've probably been sourcing or doing it a little wrong. But basically, everything that's in your cost price is the total amount of the cost that you spent for that exact product. So let's just say you're doing online arbitrage and let's say something is $5.99, right? If you don't have a reseller certificate, you need to make sure to add tax if they are charging you tax. Now, you can go in your SellerAmp settings and add that tax percentage under miscellaneous fees in there if you don't want to just keep adding taxes to the cost price. But what I usually do, since I am tax exempt in most things, I won't put it in my settings. I'll just add it to my cost price. But that's just an example. Let's say that you don't want to put it in your settings and you just want to include it in your cost price like how I do. The taxes in Florida is 7%. So what I would do is I would do the $5.99 plus 7%. And then if I'm charged any other fees, any shipping fees, anything at all, I have to add that into the cost price. So you can just get the total of what you're charged and then divide it by how much units you bought. So let's just say I bought 4 items at a store and my total was $100. That's going to be including the fees, the shipping, any other etc. costs, and that's going to be the total cost price, which I'm going to be putting on my SellerAmp, which is $25. Since we're just dividing the total cost that you are charged from the store divided by the amount of units that you bought. So if I had to pay a total of $100 and I only bought 4 units, that's a total of $25 that I have to add into my cost price. So make sure to add every single thing in. Another thing that people do is they are on a listing, let's say a pack of 2, right? And let's just say each pack is $2. They will put the cost price as $2. No, if you're selling as a bundle and you have to have a 2-pack, that has to be the price for the total price of the 2-pack. So if it's $2, you're going to do 2 times 2, which is 4. So the total cost price will be $4. And then of course, any other fees like taxes or shipping. So keep that in mind. That's really important. Mistake number 6, failing to check for IP complaints. Now, SellerAmp will let you know if there's any suspected IP issues with that product on the alerts panel right on the top of the software. But what you can also do just to make sure is scroll down to the keeper graph in the offer count graph and see if there's been any sudden dips in the offer count. What do I mean by sudden dips? Let's just say, for instance, there was 20 sellers yesterday and now there's 5 sellers today. There's no way 15 total sellers sold out of their products. That means they most likely got kicked off of the listing by either the brand or Amazon. So keep that in mind. If you see any sudden dips in the offer count, then you are going to want to stay away. But if you see a steady offer count, and let's just say, for instance, it's going from 20 sellers, 19 sellers, 18 sellers, 17 sellers, 16, 15, 14, 13. If it goes like that, then that's good. But if it just goes like 20, next day down to like 5, you are going to want to make sure to stay away from that product. Now, sometimes SellerAmp puts IP alerts, but they're just giving you a heads up. That doesn't necessarily mean to stay away from the product. So what I just said to do, look into the offer count graph, do that before disregarding if you do see that IP alert pop up. Mistake number 7, not reading the keeper graph. I would say when I was a beginner, I always thought it was confusing. So I would always disregard looking at the keeper graph like the first few weeks of me selling on Amazon. But I'm telling you guys, the keeper graph is really, really important to look into. Now, you want to make sure that you're looking at the price history of a product. If the product is doing well right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good product. You may just be looking at it when it's looking really good. But you need to look at the history of the product and see how well in the past it's sold, what was the highest price it's been at, how much sellers were on the listing before, and the keeper graphs gives you all that information. If you don't know how to read a keeper graph, just look up a quick tutorial on how to read a keeper graph for Amazon selling. You have to make sure to utilize the keeper graph and actually read it before buying a product. If not, then you might come across products that are not going to sell for you once you send them to Amazon, and we do not want that. And last but not least, mistake number 8, failing to take action. I feel like most beginner sellers procrastinate when they are sourcing. They will source for hours and hours, day in and day out, and not actually buy a product because they just don't want to pull that trigger and they don't know 100% if it's going to sell for them. I do understand why most beginners are that way. You really don't want to be losing any money with the business, but at the same time, it's going to be a process to have a successful business. Multiple successful people in this world have failed multiple times, but they got up and decided to see what was wrong, what did they do wrong, and reanalyze the board and then take action again and fix their problems. So if you come across some products and you just don't know 100%, I'm telling you guys, it doesn't hurt to do a small test order of like 5 to 10 units. And if you're scared about losing a lot of money, start off with products that are not priced that high. So let's say you're finding a product for like $5 and you want to do a test order of 5-10 units, you'll be spending the max $25-50. And if that product doesn't sell for you, you're just going to lose around that much. And if you lose that much money, you're going to find out exactly what your mistake was, and then you're going to learn from that mistake. So just take action and actually buy the products instead of just procrastinating in the sourcing part of the business. But that's all the mistakes that I have for you guys today. If you guys like this video, make sure to like it up and subscribe to SellerAmp's YouTube channel. If you want to see more of me, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jazz Hustles. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you haven't already signed up for SellerAmp, make sure to go to selleramp.com so then you can have a free trial and start looking for profitable products for your Amazon business. Thank you. Bye.